So where are we now? Do you see this as a millionaire stitch-up like Mr. Mason? Do you see an insurgency when the normal democratic route is cut off? Is it fair enough to hit the streets? Is it fair enough to hit your opponents? That's the problem. Some of the language has been so disrespectful, to say the least, and lacking in self-respect as well. Roger Helmer can help us with this. Former UKIP MEP, energy spokesperson, and now a member of the Brexit Party. Roger, good morning.
Morning, Andrew.
Morning. We're going to see protests all around the country. Do you understand why?
I understand why, but I fundamentally disagree with it. Can I pick up a couple of quick points? A millionaire's stitch-up. The fact is the Remain movement, backed by George Soros, amongst other people, backed by the banks, backed by big industry, if there was ever a millionaire's stitch-up, it is Remain. And it is Brexit, which is the rebellion against this stitch-up. And you used the phrase earlier on, people feel a real sense of betrayal. Well, they do, because 17.4 million of them voted to leave the European Union 3 and a bit years ago, and Parliament has been seeking to stop them ever since. That is where the real betrayal is.
You know the old expression, though, Roger, two wrongs don't make a right. Can you justify the proroguing of Parliament?
Well, when we first heard about proroguing of Parliament, the suggestion was that Parliament should simply be closed down till October the 31st. Boris Johnson has done nothing like that. What he's doing is absolutely standard practice. Most years we have a Queen's speech. Whenever we have a Queen's speech, we have a short prorogation before it. Every year we have a close down of Parliament for the conference season. So what he's done is he has added, I think it's 5 days, isn't it? 5 further additional days when Parliament won't sit. They will have time to debate Brexit this coming week. They will have time to debate Brexit before and
Roger,
after.
though, come on. Let's be adults about this. We know why this has happened. We know what he's doing, and you can either agree with what he's doing or not. He can't bring the proper pressure to bear on the EU ahead of the negotiations. He's been open about this. If Parliament try to stop him going after no deal, he's trying to make that a card that he can play. And if Parliament are in the way, then he can't pursue that strategy. He's trying to get Parliament out the way. That does bother me a bit.
It's certainly true that many members of Parliament are undermining his negotiating position, as they have sought to undermine the right of the British people in 2016.
As they are seeking to represent the people that in their constituency, the people they represent. That's a parliamentary democracy.
Oh, no,
and you cannot tell me that they don't legitimately feel that themselves.
They may feel it themselves, but you say they're seeking to represent their constituents. 85% of current sitting MPs were elected on manifestos that explicitly promised to give effect to the referendum result and to leave the European Union. And now a large number of them for years have been seeking actually to break that promise, to reject with contempt the opinion of the British people. There are many of those MPs who are seeking to block Brexit, who were actually elected in constituencies that voted to leave. So you can't tell me that they're representing the interests of their constituents.
No. Well, what about the protests today? Obviously, there's a great deal of concern. We send members of the police force out to deal with these things, and I'm concerned about that. And you just feel a whipping up and a ferment, really, of anger, and it's going to come together, perhaps, today. How concerned are you?
Well, the first point to make is that there's a very worrying trend in our country and in our democracy that people who find they disagree with something think they have a right to go out and disrupt the transport system and block roads. I mean, it's not just the Remain campaign. It's also, for example, Extinction Rebellion. In a democracy, you do this by electing people. And I was particularly concerned by those clips where people said, Parliament has been denied its voice. No, it hasn't. There is a standard constitutional technique available to MPs. If they think the government is wrong, they should move a motion of no confidence. They can do that. They could do it this coming week. There is nothing to stop them doing it. Why don't they do it? because they fear desperately that they would lose it. And even if they win it and there's a general election, they've looked at the opinion polls, and in fact, public opinion is swinging quite strongly behind Boris Johnson. The Conservative share of voting intention has risen very substantially. Only a few weeks ago, they were level pegging with Labour. Now they're practically 10 points ahead.
And I see Joe Swinson is ahead of Jeremy Corbyn at the moment. Do you know what, though? Politics, polling and all that. Right now, we need to figure out what we're doing. We've got 31 days until we either do or do not leave the EU. Final question to you, Roger Helmer. And against the backdrop of these protests today, what do you think the EU are thinking about all this?
I think, I've just been checking the headlines this morning before we spoke, there is a suggestion that they are prepared to relax the deadline. That is clearly a sign that they are very worried about no deal. We're always told they don't care about no deal. It won't hurt anybody except Britain. I don't believe it'll hurt Britain, but I know it will hurt Europe quite badly. I think they're starting to worry about it. I think Boris's negotiating technique is starting to show results, and I think every MP in the House of Commons should be backing him.
Good to speak with you. Thank you very much indeed. 7:15 is